Today's episode is brought to you by Dr. Jeffrey Halstead, DMD. Dr. Jeffrey Halstead has been Canandaigua's hometown dentist for more than 35 years, offering routine dental care as well as cosmetic dentistry, implants, and dentures by their highly trained and experienced staff. Visit them online at canandaiguadentistry.com or find them on Facebook and Instagram.
All right, everybody, welcome into Concrete Jungle, a New York baseball podcast. I don't know why my brain was thinking of another podcast in mind, but here on FigureLakes1.com, Paul Russo, Kyle Evans here with you as always. Kyle, how's it going? I know a pretty busy weekend, and I know for you specifically, it isn't quite over just yet, but our first really, I guess, major sports viewing weekend of the year is, for the most part, come and gone.
Yeah, it was a really good weekend. It felt like it flew by. I had so much to do, like you said. And yeah, big game tonight for, a lot of people around the area, big Bills fans. So yeah, I'm pretty excited moving forward for what's coming. How about you? How was your weekend?
Not bad, not bad. Got up to Syracuse for the football game, obviously, and we are so bad. But yeah, hopefully Gadsden's not, I guess it was his other ankle that got banged up there. So both ankles hurt for Syracuse's first consensus offensive All-American since I don't know, the Eisenhower administration, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, just overall good, obviously nice yesterday, kind of kick back, relax, and just watch football pretty much all day and keep track of everything baseball-wise going on. So we'll jump right in here, start with the Yankees because they got really the main headline here kind of from the weekend. Dropped 3 straight, lost the series ender with Detroit, lost the first 2 with Milwaukee, only for yesterday on Sunday, end up having, I can only describe be the most Yankee game of the year, right? No hit through 10 innings. And then proceed to win in extras. And it's just the most Yankee win of the year, just how they've gone about this season. We'll start quick here with that gameplay element before we jump into the main stuff, right, Kyle? I'm assuming you probably felt very similar to the way I felt, obviously, through the weekend with the Yankees, where it's just, how can they look so good so quickly and then back to the usual stuff? In a sense, even though maybe we should expect it just based on the way Sunday's game went.
Yeah, we had a nice positive podcast on Thursday. The vibes are good. And then they go and drop that finale to the Tigers. 2 straight weeks now that they haven't been able to finish off sweeps of the Tigers, which you got to do at this point. And then they face a Brewers team that, they're a good team, but their offense hasn't been great, and they just made them look great. And then they weren't scoring runs like they have been. So yeah, it was just a very disappointing weekend. You go from, being 6.5 out to now, was it 8? I think now I don't even keep track anymore.
Yeah, 8 whole games.
Yeah, so it's just at this point, 19 games left. They pretty much just, even with a win yesterday, it was nice, but they're kind of pretty much done at this point. They needed to win, basically only lose one of those 4 games, and they lost more than that. So.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, too, it's more or less the formality, even in division-wise, right? I mean, they're 19.5 out, so they're done there, which, I mean, we wrote off, at least a month or so ago, I think, give or take. So, yeah, 8 games back, 19 games remaining. Maybe not, obviously, the most crazy thing that the Yankees in their history have done, but the way things are breaking this year certainly looks to be quite the Everest-esque hike to kind of get there. Let's transition now to the main news story for the Yankees now from the weekend involving Jasson Dominguez. Done for the year, torn UCL in his right elbow. For those who don't know, the UCL, right, main, I guess, whatever you want to call it, right, tendon in your elbow for throwing. Obviously, this is an injury that we predominantly hear, and I will say predominantly at the moment, here with pitchers because obviously we want to take a look at the bigger side of baseball here. Bryce Harper had a very similar, in fact, the same injury towards the tail end of last season with the Phillies. But for me, I want to pick it up here. So my initial reaction, Kyle, you threw the news to me in the middle of, I believe it was the witching hour yesterday, was you got to be kidding me. Because as everything kind of trills out about it, we learned that this was something that happened, or the timeline of it initially begins a week ago, right? Last Sunday in Houston. And initially, I did think it was something that he told the team outright. It has, in fact, been said that it was not team outright knew about it. They didn't know about it until Wednesday when he tried more or less playing through it. But I'm still pretty perturbed because they still played him pretty much up until yesterday. And just for me, with this health stat or the health and training staff with the Yankees at this point, I gotta wonder what the thought process was, allowing him to play these few extra games, and not kind of get going on treatment right away. Obviously, more than likely, Tommy John surgery is going to be what happens here. And if he was a pitcher, we're talking about a much different timeline than since he's a position player, right? He'll be able to come back and at least take swings and at bats in springtime next year, which helps, but it eliminates obviously the defensive side of things for him. So, just like I said, I there was a bit of shock, a bit of anger when I saw, the news first. What was your initial reaction, Kyle? And more or less, what's your thoughts, more or less, on this news, based on more or less everything we know about this Yankee training staff and health staff to maybe even Dominguez himself kind of hiding it for a couple days?
Yeah, for me, it caught me so off guard because it was only like 20 minutes before the game when we heard that he was scratched from the lineup because he was originally put in the lineup yesterday. And then they just called it right elbow inflammation. So I figured he'd be down a couple days and then he'd be back. And then we immediately hear from Boone post game that he has a UCL tear. And it's like, whoa, how did that happen so quickly in 3 hours? And then he said that he was sent for tests during the game. And then he kind of broke down the timeline. And yeah, I agree. The timeline just, it's like, really, why did he still play? And then I thought about it. He got treatment Wednesday before the game, but then he hit his first Yankee Stadium home run that night. So clearly he could still play at a level that was still good enough. But then I think it was the last two games, he was like 0 for 9 with 4 strikeouts. So now that makes sense why he suddenly fell off so quickly. And Boone said that even during BP, he was struggling to elevate the ball in the air yesterday, pregame. That's why he was scratched. So it does make sense now, but it's like, man, this thing was like a week old and we just heard about it. So that was my reaction to it. And I'm kind of at this point just like, of course, something goes well for this team and then it just backfires or goes negatively.
Yeah, I mean, and the tough part too is, and we kind of get the tough part is here, right? Is now we get to have, I'd say the final, we got 19 games left here within the season, right? And it kind of, frankly, I don't know if I want to say outright taints it, but it leaves a bad taste in the mouth type thing, where um, at the very least, the positive stuff that we would probably be discussing on here a lot would be, your Dominguez's, Wells, Cabrera's, Peraza's, Pereira's. And I guess now, even though it's his replacement, right, Esteban Florial gets another opportunity here to kind of see what he's got. So it's just, like I said, it's one of those things where it's like part of it just I throw into the bin of like 2023 Yankees, whatever. But at the same token, and we've banged this drum on here, I don't know how many times now, but like it makes me genuinely curious as to like the thought process. And look, far from me being an expert in the medical field, right? There's a reason why I'm sitting where I'm sitting right now. That's because, frankly, as I call it, I'm not smart enough to deal with the human body. I can't take care of my own human body right enough most days. But the stuff like this where, like I said, they allowed him to go out there and play for what, 3 more days after. It's just I have a lot of questions again about this training staff and what I guess really frankly 2024 kind of looks like with that portion of the team as well at this point.
Yeah, and the thing about that injury too, I know you're going to get more in depth with it, but he's not the only guy that lost to injury this past week, and it just seems like the injuries just pile up and just continue to hurt them. Like the last few seasons, yeah, they haven't played great, but also can they just stay healthy for 1 year? It seems like, especially with the pitching staff. I mean, we could go on and on with the list of injuries this pitching staff has had, starting and relief pitching. So it's just at this point, it's just like, yep, what injuries next?
Yeah, let's jump right into that, right? Begin, I really frankly with probably, if it wasn't for Dominguez, probably the actual big headline here with the Yankees. That's Luis Severino, done for the season, placed on the injured list, left oblique strain. Was pitching, I thought all right up until obviously, frankly, it looked like he about keeled over at one point. It was a really, I wouldn't say strange, but it was a worrisome looking kind of deal, right? When it kind of happened. And obviously, like I said, he's done for the year. And I pose this question to you, honestly, Kyle, because I do think this is the case. Have we seen Luis Severino's last pitch in Yankee Stadium, or let alone Yankee Stadium, but in the Yankee uniform?
Yeah, I definitely think we've seen the last pitch in a Yankee uniform, but part of me feels like the Yankees mean the Yankees will try to bring him back. And it's just like, I think it's time to move on. And I think bringing him back, even if it's not a ton of money, which I don't think anyway, no matter where he goes, it'll be a ton of money. I mean, who's going to hand him a big contract with his injury history? And I mean, the limited games he's been on the field the last few years. So
the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, that could be it. But yeah, I think his time's over, and I'm hoping it's over. I like Severino, but I just think it's time to move on from a team standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. I think personally speaking, I wouldn't mind seeing them back, right? But I'm very much so with you. It has to be, I mean, it's gotta be the right deal, right? I mean, you can't be giving them not like Dick Rob money. That's even too much, even for what I think a lot of people would give him. But I mean, somebody like Wade Miley type money that Milwaukee gave Wade this past year. I mean, something like that. I don't even know if I'd go that close. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Somebody will give him a run, right? His peaks are just way too good to ignore, frankly. I don't know. Right-handed reliever Albert Abreu. They haven't outright said it from what I've seen, but likely done for the year is how I'm calling it, with a right hamstring strain. Again, Kyle, you mentioned, right? Bullpen arm too here. But a guy who's been at least within the Yankee Stadium for most of his professional career, dealing with an injury issue here that's legs are a little bit different. You can have, in theory, a hamstring strain just walking down the stairs or something like that. But again, like you said, kind of makes your eyebrows kind of perk up and question a little bit what's going on around you.
Yeah, and to be fair, he hasn't been that great. You kind of get why the Rangers DFA'd him. He's unless the bullpen's down, like with a lot of guys that have thrown multiple days in a row, he doesn't get in high leverage spots. He just kind of gets in the game when there's blowouts, and then he doesn't even perform in the blowouts. I mean, I just looked, he has a 4.73 ERA in 59 innings. So, and I believe, yeah, he's a free agent at the end of the year. So I'm wondering if it's time for them to kind of let him go again, because I don't think he's what they thought he would be. He has good stuff, but he just doesn't put it together, and it is not consistent with it.
Yeah, kind of the opposite of Severino way, where his valleys almost make it to the point that it's not worth bringing him back or taking a run on him in any way. All right, let's get to the roster portion of things here. Ron Marinaccio recalled, option back down to Scranton Wilkes-Barre, and then Matt Bowman. And I always mispronounce this poor guy's name. I feel bad, but these last names always throw me. Anthony Misowitz. See, like,
hey, at least we have a good laugh on the show today.
Yeah. I feel bad. I mispronounce his name all the time. So apologies to Anthony. But he and Matt were both recalled from Scranton. Matt Crook optioned back to Scranton, and already mentioned the Esteban Florial portion of it. So just a more or less arms rotation in and out type deal for the Yankees, keeping quote unquote everybody fresh for a supposed stretch run.
Yeah, and wait, has it already been that long? Wow, it's already 5 days old. I forgot. I was gonna mention what about Keenan Middleton, but
Yeah.
it's been 5 days. It just seems like it's been recently, more recent than that. But yeah, what is that? 4 pitchers last week they lost due to injury, counting Ian Hamilton.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Hamilton, Middleton, Severino, and Abreu.
Yep. So I mean, man, it's just like I said, it's like one after the other. Who's next? I mean, obviously I don't root for injuries, but the way it goes with this team, it's like you just never know. On the unexpected happens at any point.
Yeah, it's not rooting for. You're right. You're kind of just you're on high alert type thing, you know. All right, for the Yankees, up to Boston, 4 games against the Red Sox, starting tonight, 7:10 first pitch, Amazon Prime TV or MLB Network, depending upon your market. Clark Schmidt going against Cutter Crawford tomorrow night, Tuesday, 7:10 on TBS. Carlos Rodon against Nick Pivetta. Wednesday, 7:10 on Amazon Prime TV once again, or MLB Network, depending upon your market. TBD for the Yankees against Tanner Houck for the Red Sox. And then Thursday on Fox, 7:15 first pitch, be Michael King getting the start against to be determined for the Red Sox. So, yeah, it's interesting here because the Red Sox, Pivetta is a starter by trade, but they've been using him predominantly out the bullpen here through the summer. So I'm kind of wondering, is this a bullpen game for them on Tuesday or not? You could make the case, really, I guess, for all 3 of their scheduled starters. You know, Cutter Crawford through Tanner Houck. They kind of do the same thing where it's like, you know, they use those guys out of the bullpen a lot, but you know, clearly during the past few weeks, they've kind of transitioned them back over to the starting rotation of things. So I don't know what to honestly expect out of this series pitching wise, I guess, on either side. Now, to be fair, Clark Schmidt's been outside of Garrett Cole, I'd say really the bright spot out of the Yankees pitching staff, obviously through the whole year at this point. You know, kind of, I guess, skip over Rodon in a way here. Kind of, unfortunately, I think I know what we both expect out of him at this point, at least for this year anyway. What's interesting, right, is the Wednesday case, that's usually been kind of that bullpen-ish type game. So I don't know whether we get Vasquez in there, however that goes. Thursday, you know, King's been, you know, the more opportunities got, I know it's a very small handful of this kind of starting package that they've kind of converted him back to. He's been rising to the occasion. And that makes me kind of hopeful, I think, at least on the back end of the series to close it out. I think all that in mind, though, I don't see a way the Yankees win this series, but I don't see a way they kind of lose it either in that sense. I think, personally speaking, I think we're looking at a 2-2 split. I know Boston's got some marginal momentum right now, but this is a weird spot in their rotation, honestly. And the fact that they're also TBD for Thursday kind of throws me for a loop there. I don't know. I guess that would technically be Bayo pitched yesterday for them. So I don't know who that would be technically for them.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there. I think it's gonna be a split. The Yankees just haven't performed well against this team this year, and it's odd to see because they did so well against them last year. They're 1-8, which is again hard to believe. They just got swept at Yankee Stadium. What was that, last month?
Yes.
So yeah, I'm gonna just settle for a split. But honestly, if they go and lose this series, I don't think they'll get swept. But if they go and lose this series, I won't be surprised.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think 3-1, them losing 3-1 is definitely on the table. You know,
Yeah.
I'm with you there, though, I think collectively. All right, let's transition over to the Mets. If there's a positive for them, it's been a lot of overall quietness regarding them, although we'll get into a couple, I'd say, injury updates and stuff like that. But, you know, they lose the series to Minnesota, right? Just not, wasn't great Friday or Saturday, really. But, you know, yesterday on Sunday, kind of turns into this pitcher's duel, excuse me. And for once, I'm saying for once, even though, look, I know they've showing up a little bit here and there all year. But for once, the bullpen really holds strong in a game. And we'll get more into this guy here in a second, even though we've talked about him a ton, right? But DJ Stewart steps up late, clutch hit, brings in a couple of runs. And they at least are able to get a game from Minnesota before coming back home here for the week. But for the Mets, like I said, it was kind of just a ho hum weekend in a way. Just not a lot of noise around them, and I think that can be kind of a good thing at this point. They aren't. You don't have the pressure of winning at this point, obviously, right? I wouldn't say you're just the outright afterthought, but like with all the stuff kind of going on with the Yankees, right? Certainly nobody's really talking about the Mets anymore in the grand scheme of it. And you kind of can just allow the guys to go out there and play in a sense that, the prospects, the kids can just go out and play as opposed to where like you want to look at the Yankees. It's a little bit different right now, once again, with the Dominguez injury going on. But, it's easier to, I'd say, maybe hide, Mauricio or Beatty or, we'll get to Alvarez, but Vientos too. And if something goes bad, you can kind of hide them for a second. Whereas, with this going on, you can you get away with it and you don't have to worry about, really maybe hurting the guy's mental aspect of the game any more than it needs to be.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised that they won yesterday, honestly. I was watching the game live and they just kept striking out against what was it, Lopez?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Pablo Lopez.
14 for Pablo
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah, and 16 ended up total. But yeah, DJ Stewart, who's been hot now for a month or two, has stepped up again in a big spot. And it's cool to see again his story and how good he's been for this team. And what was it, Saturday? He hit another home run that lost.
Yeah.
They should have possibly won that game. The bullpen just wasn't good.
Right.
But then they rebounded nicely yesterday. But yeah, they just keep using Phil Bickford and Trevor Gott in high leverage spots because they kind of have to at this point when Ottavino isn't available and Rayleigh isn't available. And that sometimes just costs them games. And I'm sure that's going to be a big focus in the offseason. They got to improve the bullpen. They should have already done that before they sold off all those pieces when we thought they were going to be a contending team. And yeah, they needed to address that. That's been a weakness for them for a while.
Yeah, I mean, and I know Ottavino got the save yesterday, Rayleigh got the win, but yeah, like that. But that's what I mean though, right? Is where it's just like, man, you talk about, so like look at Saturday, right? Just bad, whatever. Kind of have to move on from that in that sense, right? Only to kind of bounce back and nobody's gonna really question it, I guess, in a sense. You know what I mean? Like we aren't sitting here. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some pundits elsewhere that kind of are. I mean, that they have to spend just way more time in depth, right, with the team than we have to do. That they're probably talking about how this was like just a miserable series and blah blah blah. From my standpoint, right, it's just like the right pieces are kind of clicking where they need to be right now. That not to say you just kind of wipe it off, right, but like we've said, it's a lost season for the Mets, right? And so at this point, all you can do is kind of just try and gear up and get ready for next year.
Yeah, and I didn't check into this, but Mauricio's hit streak, I believe, ended since the last time we talked, but he's still been very good, still looking for his first home run. There's other guys that like haven't performed great, but there's still 19 games left. Just kind of ride momentum into the offseason and then just see kind of where it goes from there. I mean, basically you're kind of just playing for yourself because the team isn't, going to make the playoffs, but you can build on next year. And I think that's what they've kind of done. I mean, especially DJ Stewart, he wants to make the team next year. So yeah, it's just, I guess if you're a Mets fan, you kind of just watch the games rooting for individuals at this point.
Yeah, perfect little segue there because I do want to highlight DJ Stewart here again for a quick moment because we haven't done it so much in the statistical sense for him. But it's strange when I say it this way, right? Like he's a guy who's our age. And I know the Yankee portion of this will recognize him because he was a Baltimore prospect, top prospect for a little bit, and never could quite cling on there. That we've gone over that, right? It's just never could. And this year begins. He was in spring with the Mets. Starts here in Syracuse. Gets called up, obviously, midway through the summer here at like the deadline and everything. And here's the deal with Stewart. he's having a career year. The only place he's having a sub career year is his WAR right now, where it's even then, like for him, it's actually technically still building upon his positivity sense in the WAR. He has a point slightly above average, point 0.8 right there, but 106 at bats. He has 26 hits rather, 11 home runs, 264 average, 14 runs scored, 24 RBIs. He does have one stolen base, so have to credit there. A 342 on base, 632 slugging, a 974 OPS, and a 162 OPS plus. All either if he was playing a full season, he'd be having a career year. And frankly, he is having a career year. And I'm with you, Kyle, in this sense. But I'll go one step further. Whether it's with the Mets or another team, DJ Stewart deserves to have a big league roster spot next year somewhere to start the year.
Definitely has earned it by his. And the thing is, there's still 19 games left. I mean, what is he at? 11 home runs?
Yep.
Could he that 15 homer mark? Could he? What is he at? What did you say? RBI 30, 25?
24.
Yeah, maybe, gets over that 30 mark, and yeah, he just continues to hit the ball. Something where I think it's honestly consistent playing time. He had that 1 year in Baltimore where he played quite a bit and just struggled, but now he's getting that playing time regularly again and he's producing. So maybe that's just what he needed.
Yeah, I mean, he played his top year in Baltimore was 100 games in 21. And even then, like, you want to talk about regular time, he borderline wasn't, though, getting actually regular time with that team that year. I mean, he was, not to say lost in the shuffle to a degree, but you kind of had the emergence of Austin Hayes that year, Cedric Mullins obviously, and Anthony Santander. So outfield spots were clogged up. In first base, he couldn't exactly go there because that's where Brian Mountcastle's rookie year was, and so he kind of got pinned as being your fourth, fifth guy kind of, and just couldn't quite get that consistency going. He only played, I think, 3 big league games like last year, 9 at bats or something like really low like that, and not a single hit. Like I said, I think, and I'm with you. The more at bats he gets and everything like that, I think he keeps it going. I stand by my stance on it. I think he deserves a big league spot next year on a team.
Yeah, and one thing that also has impressed me is his defense too. I mean, he's made so many diving plays, leaping catches, saved games for this team. So he's doing it on both ends. It's been very fun to watch, just for an individual standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, it goes, I think, kind of without saying where, certainly this year he's got to be considered a bright spot. Really does. Okay, let's transition over here, talk about some injuries for the Mets. Francisco Alvarez alluded to it a little bit, but not quite. Left yesterday's game after being hit by a pitch on his right wrist. X-rays did come back clean, but more tests are slated to be done today. Also, he had a protective sleeve when he came back out of the clubhouse into the dugout on the wrist. So positive there is that the initial stuff came back clean, but we've seen this year actually with the Mets themselves, right? The imaging doesn't necessarily show everything right away because of swelling and everything like that. So at least early on, they dodge a bullet, but probably not quite out of the clear yet.
Yeah, I saw that happen live, and it's just so crazy to me the amount of times that players on the Mets have been hit, like just this year and last year. I mean, that's just been a story. Again, obviously, in certain spots, it's not intentional, and most of the times it's not intentional. But I mean, why the Mets? Why are they the ones getting hit so much? And especially Pete Alonso. I mean, his hit by pitches rank right up there, and among the top of the league, if not the top of the league. I don't know the exact stats. So yeah, it's frustrating. You never want a player to get injured at all, but when it gets hit, when the injury happens by a hit by pitch, it's even more frustrating.
Yeah, did you see the StatCast graphic the Twins broadcast used for the
Oh
Mets?
yeah, I did see
Yeah.
that. Yep.
So yeah, I mean it's crazy, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Better them than me is what I'll say. Starling Marte, obviously, as we updated last week, been with the team now. Did take some swings and did some running drills, but nothing very intimate there with him coming back at all this year. And we did find out. I had to do some digging on this one. Alluded to also last week, Luis Guillorme being a rehab assignment. On the Mets main website, it doesn't even say where. I had to go to Guillorme's actual page for players, and find out he is with High A Brooklyn for his rehab assignment.
Wow.
Yeah. So, kind of alluded to it already a little bit, right? The Mets back home, hosting Arizona for 4 games, beginning tonight, 7:10 first pitch on SNY. Zach Davies against Jose Quintana. After this, it's all TBD for the Mets, pitching wise, but the Diamondbacks do have their slated pitchers out. Tuesday, 7:10 will be Ryan Nelson for the Diamondbacks. Wednesday, 7:10, also on SNY, Zach Gallen. Then Thursday, a 4:10 getaway game on SNY. Merrill Kelly goes for the Diamondbacks. This is a Diamondback team still technically in it. And unfortunately for the Mets, they're kind of facing outside of really, Monday, Tuesday, you're facing the 2 best pitchers on the Diamondbacks, but also 2 of the best pitchers in baseball, period, this year. Obviously, I'm a big Zach Gallen guy, and Merrill Kelly, to be fair. So I don't know if this looks great for the Mets, but I do think that they'll split with the Diamondbacks 2-2. I think they'll be able to jump early on Zach Davies and Ryan Nelson, but get shut down on the back end by Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a split. Don't know, where they're going to get that split, like which games they're going to take. But yeah, the Diamondbacks really haven't been that impressive. Since the start of the year. The Mets are due for another series win after kind of, not looking so great in Minneapolis. So yeah, you know what? I'll change my thing. I'll change my prediction.
Oh,
Mets win 3 of 4.
okay. Look at you go.
Yep, feeling it.
All right. All right, before we get out here, quickly want to touch on the Rochester and Syracuse. Rochester and Syracuse obviously battled last week in Thruway Cup. Syracuse come out victorious at the top end of that. Able to take 3 of what ended up being 5 games. They got rained out on Thursday last week. Canceled. It's way too late in the season to make up the games, apparently. I guess they couldn't do a doubleheader somewhere along the line there the final couple days. And to be fair, they probably actually couldn't, at least on Saturday. Saturday ended up getting wet quick. I know they ended up calling the game. I believe it was the 7th inning, if I'm not mistaken. But I was in Syracuse for obviously the football game, and it was ominous skies pretty much all day up there. So the fact they were able to even get it going, kudos to them. But Rochester back home this week against Lehigh Valley, their final homestand of the year. So if you're able to get out, go and do it. I know I'm trying to go to the game on Friday night up there. Luis Garcia was recalled to Washington. Rico Garcia, reliever, assigned to Rochester. Out of Valley, Javier and Lucas Knowles were assigned from Double A Harrisburg, and Joe Lasorsa was recalled to Washington. On the Syracuse side of things, they're on the road this week against the Hoosocks, and for the first time all year, no roster transactions in the past 5 days for Syracuse. Crazy. So nothing to report on there, but it looks like the Thruway Cup standings are going to be Buffalo is going to be on top, Syracuse in second, and Rochester in third for the year.
Yeah, watch. We'll get off here in a few minutes, and we'll hear that the Mets have made a roster move, and
right,
the first one in a week. That's just how it normally goes. But yeah, 22 and 38. Yuck. Kind of just like on the same path as their big league club. So
right.
nothing really has changed too much on the standings there, it looks like. And yeah,
at least they're in Charlotte.
Yeah, the Red Wings are always making moves, though. I feel like that's like every day I'm getting press releases, guys release. Like, what was it? A few weeks ago, Luis Sessa was released.
Yeah, but he had that veteran opt out, so I wasn't necessarily surprised there. But yeah,
crazy how much he's kind of fallen off. I mean, he was solid with the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
Bullpen, he had like a 3 ERA. Now he just can't find a spot.
That'll happen. That's why it's the minor leagues with those guys, I guess, to a degree. But yeah, either way. So that will take care of Concrete Jungle for today. Appreciate everybody for listening or watching, depending upon where you are, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, and the other major podcasting platforms. We'll see everybody back in studio on Thursday. Kyle, any big plans here midweek this week?
No big plans. Just a lot of sitting here on my laptop, doing work and watching games. I mean, it's not really work because I enjoy it so much and it's sports, so why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's kind of how my weeks go. I get outside when I can, of course. But yeah, it seems like it's cooling off finally, and probably hang out outside when I can.
Nothing wrong with that. That's for sure. Yeah. Kyle, kudos to you as always. I know I mentioned it from time to time here, but yeah, this is your busy time of year again, as you have not only pretty much every of the sports teams going on, but you also have high school stuff going on, and you put out a lot of kick-ass work. So appreciate you as always.
Appreciate that, Paul.
All right, everybody, we'll talk again on Thursday. It will be in the morning, like we were last week, 11 a.m. for that live session in studio. So until then, enjoy the week, everybody.